now become a bit of a tradition here on the channel for me to tell you a little bit about my personal library at the start of each year. I like doing a little reflection on the amount of books that I own, which ones I have read or not already. Before we get into all of that, I also like to start these videos by telling you which books I'm currently reading and also the first reading plans of the year, because that's always fun to plan. The start of a new reading year feels particularly exciting if you ask me. So as for current reads, the first one I want to show you is Uproar, Satire, Scandal and Printmakers in Georgian London, and this is by Alice Loxton. It is a non-fiction book and it is our final pick for the Whimsical Readers book club. If you've joined us over the past few months, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed buddy reading with us. We loved buddy reading books with you, and we thought this would be a good year, a good time to finish this project. So if you'd like to join us one last time, we will be discussing this book as well as reflecting a little bit about our past book choices and maybe ranking them as well, and that will happen on Sunday the 19th. So I will leave the information in the description in case you would like to join us for that. I barely just started this one. I am on page 4, so that's really not a lot. But I can already tell this is a very fun read. I really like the author's voice here. It seems to be very sarcastic, which makes sense here, but also very informative. So I'm very intrigued to see what more information she will share with us. This is the first time that I read a non-fiction for a book club, so I'm very interested as well to see how our discussion will go. Then I'm also reading a book that's inside this beautiful Frida Kahlo book sleeve, because it is the book that I've chosen to always keep with me whenever I leave the house, and that is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr. I am reading this one mainly because it was a pick on my Patreon's TBR jar, where everyone can leave their recommendations and I pick a book or two every season to read, and right now I'm just catching up on past choices. This was one of them. I also know a few of my booktube friends love this book. This follows the love story of two young men who are enslaved on a deep south plantation. So as you can imagine, that whole setting says a lot already, and I didn't read anything else from the synopsis because I don't know where the story will go from here, but it already has a very tragic undertone. The writing is beautiful. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm 44 pages into it and very intrigued to continue, even though I'm not sure this was the best choice for me to keep as a book that I will take with me everywhere. I always do that with a book or two. I'm not sure this was the best choice because this will probably be very emotional and I'm not sure how I will react in public reading this, but it's okay. I will try to commit to it. Otherwise, if it gets too much, I will just read it at home, in the comfort of blankets and hot drinks if I need some consolation after finishing this. If you've read this, I would love to hear your thoughts as well. It truly is beautiful. So far, I do recommend it, but we'll see where the story goes from here. I'm kind of scared. And then my final current read. Because, of course, if you didn't know, I filmed one reading vlog for this book and my idea was to continue those reading vlogs, which I'm finally doing right now. The moment where I decided to start those vlogs was not a great one for me. At the time, I even had to take a step back from publishing videos. I just was not feeling good about any of it. So it wasn't really the best moment for me to start those, but now I am committed. I am committed once again. I adore the musical. It is one of my favorite stories. I always like to imagine myself in a past life being part of a similar revolution, just fighting for the people and what's right, fighting for the good and equality. And these stories speak a lot to me. The musical is one of my favorite things of all time. This book is becoming one of my favorites of all time. No surprises there again. So I'm excited. This is where I stopped last time. And now I am continuing. I am moving forward. Also, I never expected my reading vlog for the first part of the book to have so many views and receive so much good feedback and love. I did not expect that at all. Like filming either book reviews or reading vlogs dedicated to specific books where I have to really discuss my thoughts is something that, ironically, because I do make book videos, ironically it makes me very uncomfortable and very self-aware of how much of a terrible reviewer I actually am. And this is because I'm a very emotional person. I have a hard time usually putting my feelings into words, especially spoken words. Whenever I write them down is a bit easier for me, but having to speak to a camera and being somewhat eloquent in what I say and coherent and explain properly each themes and what I liked or didn't about a book, that's incredibly intimidating to me. That's not really what my channel is about at all. It is bookish related, but in case you haven't noticed, I don't really do a lot of book reviews because it's not really my favorite thing to do. But with this one, I decided to just take a chance. And if you're one of those people who watched the video and left me such wonderful feedback, thank you so much. You have no idea how much that has helped me just keep going, even with filming videos in general. So thank you so much. That was incredibly nice of you, and it just exploded a little bit, and I'm very grateful, so thank you. But another reason why I have a big motivation to finish this book is the following reason. In December, I think, I posted a poll on Patreon for all of the beautiful people there to vote on what should be my first read of 2025. Excluding current reads, so if I was currently reading any book when the year started, I could finish those books, and book club picks as well, because I do need to finish those for live shows. But other than that, they could choose any book they wanted. I gave them a lot of options of books that I have been meaning to read for ages, and I keep saying I will, and I never do. And so they had a lot of options. However, the one that I was expecting to win was the winner. It was a bit obvious because a lot of people are excited for me to read this. I'm excited to read this, like, very, very much. And that is, of course, if you haven't guessed already, it is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I am finally going to read this book, so my plan right now is to finish Les Mis first, because there's no way I'm going to read both of these at the same time. So I'm just going to finish Les Mis as soon as I can, and then amongst all the book club picks and everything, I will also start this humongous book, which I'm very, very, very looking forward to reading, because just like with Les Mis, I do think this will be an all-time favorite for me. That's a lot of pressure to put on a book, but I really think it will. I might also film a reading vlog with my experience on the book. A few people have asked me that, which is very sweet. Thank you for being interested in that. And I might just do it. We might have a reading vlog of me just screaming and crying over this book, just like we have with Les Mis. So that should be fun. As for book club picks, soon I will also pick up The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy, because this was our pick for the Thomas Hardy read-along. We will also have our live show at the end of January. And there's an audiobook narrated by Alan Rickman. Will I be able to actually focus on the story? Stay tuned to find out, because I'm not too sure. Alright everyone, I have my computer in front of me with some data from last year's video because I want to see how they compare. I never really look at this with too much attention until I film the next video, which is this one. So it will be kind of a surprise for me as well. Let me try and see if I can find the graphics from last year, because I obviously do not remember anything. Okay, moment of truth. So last year I did own 776 books, whereas this year I have 845 books. So it's a bit more, obviously. It's always fascinating to me to get this comparison, because I never have a slight idea of the amount of books that I acquire in a year, because I personally don't really buy that many books. There are one or two exceptions during the year where I might splurge a little bit more. One of them is during the book fair in Lisbon, which has so many wonderful sales and everything. So yes, usually that's where I buy the most. And then, not exactly on my birthday, but surrounding that time of the year. So anytime between May and June is when I buy books more frequently, I would say. And then we have the current reads, and I will add 4 books books to that because, again, we have Uproar, The Prophets, and also Les Mis. But I add duplicates to my collection if I own them, and I do own 2 copies of Les Mis. So technically it's 4 currently reading books, but it's really 3. And I also had 51 what I call special editions books. These are the ones about either photography or art or exhibitions, curiosities such as those ones where it's not books that I will probably never actively read, but just rather consult here and there. And last year, again, I did have 51. This year I have 53, so it's almost the same. And then, of course, the numbers that I am always the most curious about, and so are you, I imagine, the read and unread number. So last year I had 306 read books and 414 unread books. Let's see how that compares, because I have no idea. I really don't. So as for read books, I have 341 books, so it's definitely a bit more than last year. But then, of course, if you can do the math, 447 books. Let's see if that adds up, and yes, it does. So that's 4 current reads, 53 special editions type of books, 341 read books, and then 447 unread books. I don't think this is such a huge difference, honestly, from last year to this one. It's pretty much the same. Of course, the read and unread pile are a bit higher, but even so, it's nothing drastic. Now it's time to figure out how many books I own that were gifted and how many were bought by myself. These numbers might not be exactly right. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 where I'm not, completely sure whether or not I bought them or was gifted, but most of them I remember pretty well. So I think it's roughly this number. And we'll see, because I have no idea. I did write them down for each book, but I haven't done the comparison. So we'll see how many books out of 845 did I buy. Let's see. That is very interesting. I was kind of right about this. So I did buy 426 books, which means I was gifted 419 books. Which, again, it's insanely, I don't know, looking at these numbers, I was gifted 419 books. That's absolutely insane. I was pretty sure this would happen because, again, I love buying books, obviously, but I don't really buy that many per year. So most of the ones that I get are usually gifts, and it's just insane to see that in numbers. Again, 1 or 2 might be wrong, I will say that, but this is roughly mainly correct. And it's insane. I keep saying this, but honestly, I am incredibly lucky to have people in my life who support my love of books, and in the best way possible, they just allow me to have this beautiful library that would not be possible otherwise, obviously, and many of those people are some of you, which again, it's that thought, it completely baffles me, truly, and I never know really how to react. I just get very speechless because it's extremely generous, and just seeing that portrayed in numbers where it's almost 50-50. It is almost 50-50%. It's crazy. So I don't know. Just thank you so much to all of you and to all the wonderful, wonderful people that I have in my life, because you're crazy and I love you for that. When it comes to genres, I guess it's pretty much the same, so I will just insert here the data from last year, because I don't really think there's anything new there. Of course, there could be other ways for me to categorize some of these books. Maybe they could be included in more different genres, but I think this is mainly the big picture of the genres that I own. When it comes to countries, though, that's where I want to see if we have anything new. I think there's an update, because last year we had 48 countries, we ended on Finland, and now to those we are adding Palestine, Estonia, Singapore, Austria, Wales, and India. So we actually have 54 countries, which I love. I'm always happy to look at my collection of countries and kind of imagine a world map and a way for us to travel the world through books. That's beautiful. I feel like I always say this, but it's so true. So this is the part where I again ask you if you have any recommendations, especially from countries that you do not see on the list right now. But of course, if you have any others from any of the countries here, I would love to hear them as well. I always love looking back at these numbers. It's very fun to do a little comparison as to what my library looks like a year later. I would love to hear if you have any reading goals for this year. I don't really, other than trying to expand again the amount of countries that I read from. That would be great. But I'm also making an effort to read specifically more Portuguese authors because I feel like last year I improved a little bit, but I want to make sure I keep doing that more consciously because I need to support my own country. It's a bit silly that ever since I started making videos online, I kind of stopped reading in Portuguese as much, and I do not want to do that. I want to get back to reading in my own language, which I think is beautiful, but reading more diversely as well, which I think is always very important, and I want to do that more intentionally and more frequently as well. But other than that, it's very vague. I'm just going to follow my mood. Other than that, thank you all so much for being here, for watching this video. I really hope you keep having a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and I'll see you again very soon on my next video or for some reading sprints as well. Bye everyone!